The gate to empathy and compassion opens when we see human experience, no matter how unsavory or disfigured, without the mindset of judgment and fear. At both gates, we announce the open sesame, the unconditional yes to that person's reality. This is not a place in adult relationships where we need to take someone's real lived experience away from them. And empathy means, it doesn't mean you agree with somebody. It doesn't mean you would do the same thing that that person has done, but not judging someone and allowing that person to tell you how they felt, what they experienced, that is empathy. It is not agreement. Okay? But compassion is what comes out of, I could totally understand if I was in your shoes and experienced what you experienced. I can't tell you I would do anything different. I have compassion for what you've been through. Okay? The 5 mindsets are not to be construed as bad. Each of these pirates is full of energy that can be recruited for the unsinkable schooner of mindful love. The task is not to disown the mindsets that take you away from being an adult in relationships, but to redirect their energy so they can serve us and others. Sometimes it's not the time to judge. It's not the time to lecture. It's not the time to control situations. Sometimes you have to give space for someone else to share their reality without dismissing them, diminishing them, or pushing them away, or making them feel there's something wrong with them, right? The task is not to disown these mindsets, but to redirect their energy so that they can serve us and others. This fear can be mined for wise caution. I really like this because I would say probably about 85 to 90% of my clients have anxiety, right? Anxiety is what usually puts people in my door, right? Who say, I'm having this crippling anxiety, I need help, right? So a lot of people reach out to me when they start feeling this anxiety. But one thing I want to tell them is that nervous anxiousness, you don't really want to get rid of it totally. The problem with anxiety is that it just becomes out of control and it becomes crippling. Remember, the feeling of anxiety, and we don't have enough time here for me to get into the biology of it and cortisol and all of that. But in a nutshell, anxiety is there to protect you, and you need to become friends with it, right? So when it's time for me to do my taxes, I start feeling anxious, right? Because that anxious feeling is what motivates me to start contacting my tax advisor and start filling out those forms. And then once I get it done, the anxiety goes away, right? So that's an instance of anxiety motivates me. Like, oh my God, I got to make sure I carve out time to get my taxes in order, right? So anxiety is a good thing, but when it becomes crippling is when, I do everything, I fill out my taxes and I'm still worried. Like there shouldn't be residual worry, right? So that's where anxiety, you have to understand that it can serve you. Sometimes these things serve you, but sometimes it becomes crippling. And that's where I usually see a lot of clients in my office, and we talk about, how to get rid of those things. So if you're interested in working with me, you can go to my website, coachingwithdralicia.com. Anxiety is just a terrible thing to live with. And there are tricks and things that you can do to help you control that, right? So he goes on to say, fear can be mined for wise caution, right? So fear is a good thing. Pay attention to your body and how you're feeling because something could be coming, right? So fear is a good thing. It helps to protect you, right? Desire makes it possible to reach out, okay? Judgment includes intelligent assessment, right? So that's what I do as a therapist. I'm judging the situation. I'm working with couples and I'm judging what's happening here, what's going on here. I'm making judgments, right? So judgment is really actually very useful in my field. but it's not useful when I'm trying to allow someone to share their experience, right? Don't come to conclusions, but it's a gift. Being able to have wise judgment, caution, to be able to reach out to someone. And judgment includes intelligent assessment. So you don't want to cut off judgment totally, right? So control is necessary in most daily activities. Yeah, we need to have a certain amount of control about what we do every day, because how would you get tasks done? Fantasy is the springboard to the imagination and creativity. The most creative person I know is my husband. He lives in a fantasy sometimes, but he's turned it into a skill that helps him to become very successful. And sometimes I'm like, Boyce, I need your imagination. Please help me out of situations. So I turn to him just for, how are we going to be creative? I got this problem. I need to creatively get out of this problem. He's very useful in that, by the way. So I'm real lucky to have him in his creative imagination. He's got a great imagination, very brilliant mind. Okay. When we find useful kernels of these mindsets, the trespassers can become our bosom buddies, make friends with all of the things that we talked about that interfere with your ability to be present. You have to have control over it.